The wedding band had just finished playing our enchanting first dance song, a melody that still lingered in the air like a sweet memory. I glanced across the beautifully decorated reception hall and caught sight of my younger sister, Melissa, weaving her way through the elegantly set tables toward the stage. Her sequin-encrusted gold dress shimmered under the soft glow of the chandeliers, catching every eye with each unsteady, champagne-fueled step. That look on her face, the one I'd seen countless times before, told me everything. It was the mischievous glint she always had when she was about to steal the spotlight and make herself the undeniable center of attention. My heart skipped a beat, not out of fear, but out of anticipation for what I knew was coming. I gently touched my new husband James's arm, feeling the warmth of his tuxedo under my fingertips. "She's going for the mic," I whispered calmly, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. James tensed beside me, his jaw tightening as he watched Melissa's determined march. "Should I stop her?" he asked, his voice laced with unease. "No," I replied, adjusting my delicate lace veil with hands that never wavered. "Let her." He shot me a puzzled glance, his brow furrowing, but he stayed still as Melissa clumsily climbed onto the stage, snatching the microphone from the bewildered band leader. The room, filled with 200 guests in their finest attire, began to hush, all eyes turning to my younger sister, who stood poised to deliver her performance. My mother, seated at a nearby table adorned with roses and candlelight, half rose from her chair, her face etched with anxiety. She knew, just as I did, that Melissa, a microphone, and too much champagne were a recipe for disaster. But she didn't know the full extent of what was about to unfold. "Excuse me, everyone," Melissa's voice rang out, slightly slurred but piercingly clear, cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. "I have an announcement to make." The wedding coordinator, stationed nervously at the side of the room, looked to me with frantic eyes, silently pleading for direction. I gave her a subtle shake of my head. Let it happen, I thought. Melissa, basking in the spotlight, gestured dramatically toward James and me. "My beautiful sister Emma just married James," she declared, prompting a few polite, confused claps from the audience. Then she paused, her eyes glinting with that malicious spark I'd seen too many times before, the one that always preceded her cruelty. "I'm pregnant with the groom's baby," she announced, her words slicing through the silence like a knife. The room froze for a heartbeat before erupting into chaos. Gasps filled the air, chairs scraped against the polished wooden floor, and a wine glass shattered as it hit the ground. My mother's piercing scream cut through the cacophony, a sound of shock and heartbreak. Melissa stood on the stage, triumphant, as if she'd just won a grand prize. But I, standing there in my pristine white wedding dress, my grandmother's heirloom pearls cool against my throat, didn't flinch. Instead, I smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that caught everyone off guard. "Perfect timing," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the stunned reception hall, calm and unshaken. Melissa blinked at me from the stage, her confidence faltering. She'd expected tears, rage, a dramatic scene to feed her love for chaos. "Emma, did you hear what I said?" she pressed, leaning into the microphone with exaggerated emphasis. "I'm pregnant with James's baby. Your husband and I have been having an affair." I nodded serenely, my composure unshakable. "Yes, Melissa, I know. Since last March, right? That conference in Miami where you just happened to run into him." James went rigid beside me, his tension radiating like heat from a fire. You knew." Melissa stammered, her triumphant edge crumbling. "Of course I knew," I replied, stepping forward, my heels clicking confidently on the polished dance floor. Every eye in the room followed me, the weight of their gazes heavy but exhilarating. "Just like I know about the apartment in Riverside that James rented for your secret rendezvous, the one he pays for with the credit card he thinks I don't know about." James started to speak, his voice strained. "Emma, shoo," I interrupted without glancing at him, my focus locked on Melissa. "It's your moment, Mel. You've been planning this for weeks, haven't you? You even bought that dazzling gold dress specifically for today, charged it to James's secret card, if I recall correctly." My sister's face drained of color under her meticulously applied makeup, her confidence shattered. How could you possibly know that? She demanded, her voice trembling. I reached the edge of the stage and looked up at her, my expression calm but piercing. Because, unlike you and James, I pay attention. I notice when my husband suddenly starts working late, when my sister develops a sudden fascination with his hobbies, when hotel charges appear on credit card statements. Turning to face our guests, who looked as though they were watching the most gripping reality show ever filmed, I addressed them with poise. I apologize for the unexpected drama, everyone. But since my sister chose this moment to share her news, I thought I'd share some of mine as well. I reached into the small satin purse I'd left at the head table and pulled out a thick envelope, its contents heavy with truth. Daniel, I called out. A man in a sharp dark suit rose from a table near the back, prompting a gasp from my cousin Marcus. That's Daniel Morrison, the private investigator who caught Senator Walsh cheating. Marcus whispered loudly. Yes, it is, I said pleasantly. Daniel, would you mind? Daniel strode forward, pulling out a tablet with a professional air. Of course, Mrs. Chin, sorry, Mrs. Patterson. Actually, I corrected with a smile. Just call me Emma. I'll be going back to Chin soon enough. The crowd's collective gasp was almost comical. Daniel turned his tablet toward the crowd, mirroring the screen to the large display we'd used earlier for our romantic slideshow. These are from March 15th, he said in a calm, professional tone as surveillance photos appeared. James and Melissa in the Marlington Hotel lobby in Miami, in the elevator, entering a room together, each image crystal clear. March 22nd, Daniel continued, swiping to show the Riverside apartment complex, James carrying groceries, Melissa arriving in her signature pink Mercedes, the two embracing on the balcony. April 3rd. Stop. Melissa shrieked into the microphone, her voice cracking. This is illegal. Actually, Daniel replied mildly, everything was obtained legally, public places, no expectation of privacy. I stepped forward. But my favorite is from 2 weeks ago, Daniel. The screen switched to security footage from a jewelry store, showing James and Melissa browsing rings. The audio was faint but clear enough. When are you going to leave her? Melissa's voice asked. After the wedding, James replied. I need her trust fund to pay off the business loans first. 6 months, maybe a year, then we can be together. The video froze on Melissa trying on what looked like an engagement ring. The reception hall exploded into chaos. My mother had fainted, her chair empty as my aunts fanned her face. My father, red with rage, was restrained by 2 uncles as he lunged toward James. Melissa's boyfriend, yes, she had the audacity to bring a date to my wedding while claiming to be pregnant with my husband's child, stumbled toward the exit, his face ashen. Turn it off. James pleaded, his voice desperate. Emma, please, we can talk about this. We are talking about it, I said reasonably, my voice steady and clear. Right now, in front of all these witnesses, which will be very helpful for the divorce proceedings. James's face twisted with shock. You planned this. You knew, and you let us get married. I laughed, a light, genuine sound that echoed in the tense room. Oh, James, you really should have read the prenup more carefully. The infidelity clause is ironclad. You get nothing, no trust fund, no shared assets, no alimony. And since you've been embezzling from my father's company to fund your little love nest, you'll be lucky to avoid jail. My father broke free from my uncles, his face thunderous. What? He demanded. Did you think I wouldn't audit the books when I discovered the affair? I asked James conversationally. Really? You know I have a forensic accounting degree. Melissa dropped the microphone, the piercing feedback squeal echoing as she scrambled off the stage, her heel catching in her dress, sending her sprawling to the floor. Oh, and Melissa, I called after her, my voice sweet but sharp, congratulations on the pregnancy. Though you might want a paternity test. Daniel has some fascinating footage from your girls' trip to Vegas last month. She froze, sprawled on the floor, her face a mask of horror. That's right, I continued. James isn't the only one who's been busy. What was his name? Trevor? The bartender. James grabbed my arm, his grip tight. Emma, this is insane. You can't do this. I looked at his hand on my white sleeve, then up at his face, the handsome face I'd fallen in love with 5 years ago, the face I'd vowed to cherish just hours earlier. "Security," I called calmly. Two uniformed men appeared instantly, because, of course, I'd hired security for this very moment, planning every detail of this day. "Mr. Patterson is no longer welcome at this event," I said firmly. James protested. "This is my wedding, too." "No," I corrected, my voice cold and clear. "This was your wedding. Now it's my divorce party." As security escorted James out, with Melissa scrambling after him, her mascara streaming down her face like dark rivers, I turned to the stunned crowd. "I know this isn't the reception you expected," I said, my voice warm and inviting. "But the good news is the catering is fully paid for. The bar is open for another 3 hours, and the band knows some fantastic breakup songs. So please stay and celebrate with me, not the marriage I thought I was getting, but the freedom I'm choosing instead." For a moment, the room was still. Then my college roommate, Diana, stood, raising her champagne glass with a fierce grin. To Emma, she called out, for having more courage than anyone in this room. The crowd roared, leaping to their feet, applauding wildly. My mother, recovered from her faint, made her way to me, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, honey, why didn't you tell me?" she whispered, pulling me into a tight embrace. "Because you would have tried to fix it," I said softly, hugging her back. "You would have suggested counseling or talking it out, but I didn't want it fixed, Mom. I wanted it over. This wedding, all this money, it was worth it to see their faces." I smiled. Besides, I needed them to continue their affair long enough to establish a pattern for the divorce. And I wanted Melissa to think she'd won, right up until the moment she lost everything. My father appeared at my side, his face weary and aged by betrayal. "The embezzlement, about 50,000, I told him quietly. "I have all the documentation. It's enough to prosecute if you want." He shook his head, his voice heavy. "My own son-in-law and Melissa." "I'm sorry, Emma." "No, Dad," I said firmly. "I'm sorry. We let her get away with too much for too long. This is as much our fault as hers." The band leader approached tentatively. "Miss Chin, should we keep playing?" "Absolutely," I replied with a grin. "Start with Before He Cheats. I have a bouquet to throw." As the music swelled and the crowd began to move, my Aunt Patricia sidled up to me, her eyes wide with astonishment. "That was quite a show, darling. But aren't you devastated? Your husband and sister betrayed you." "I found out 4 months ago," I said calmly. "I've had time to grieve the relationships I thought I had. Today isn't about pain, Aunt Pat. It's about justice." She frowned, confused. "And the baby?" I smiled wryly. "Melissa says a lot of things. She's been claiming to be pregnant for 2 months, but Daniel has footage of her buying pregnancy tests in bulk and practicing her announcement in her car. She's not pregnant. She just wanted to hurt me in the most public, humiliating way possible." The rest of the reception was surreal, a whirlwind of dancing, laughter, and heartfelt support. Guests ate, drank, and approached me with congratulations, as if I'd won a grand victory rather than ended a marriage. The photographer, grinning, snapped photos, joking that these would be the most unforgettable wedding pictures he'd ever taken. Around midnight, as the party began to wind down, I stepped onto the balcony overlooking the twinkling city lights. Diana joined me, slightly tipsy but fiercely loyal. "You know the best part," she said, her voice slurring with champagne and admiration. "You're going to be a legend, the woman who turned her cheating husband's wedding into a divorce party. They'll tell this story for decades." I laughed, the sound genuine and freeing, surprising even myself. "I suppose there are worse things to be remembered for," I said. "So, what now?" Diana asked, leaning against the railing. I gazed out at the city, my mind drifting to the apartment I'd already rented across town, the divorce lawyer I'd retained, and the job offer in Seattle I'd been quietly considering. The life I'd been secretly building while James and Melissa thought they were outsmarting me. Now, I said, I live without lies, without betrayal, without people who claim to love me while stabbing me in the back. Just me, starting over. And the trust fund? It'll fund its true purpose, opening a forensic accounting firm specializing in divorce cases, helping other women uncover what their husbands are really up to, Diana clinked her glass against mine. You're going to be rich. I already am, I replied, smiling. I just had to lose the dead weight to realize it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Curiosity got the better of me, and I glanced at the screen. This isn't over. You've ruined everything. You'll pay for this. Melissa. I screenshot it, evidence for the restraining order, and blocked the number. By morning, my lawyer would send cease and desist letters to both Melissa and James. By the end of the week, the divorce papers would be filed. By the end of the month, I'd be in Seattle, starting fresh, unburdened by the past. But tonight, I was going to dance at my wedding-turned-divorce party, surrounded by people who truly cared about me. Tonight, I was celebrating the end of a lie and the beginning of my truth. Come on, I said to Diana, linking my arm through hers. Let's go show them how a real woman handles betrayal, with class, style, and a private investigator. Exactly, Diana laughed. We stepped back inside, where the band was rocking Kelly Clarkson's Stronger. I kicked off my designer heels, hiked up my wedding dress, and danced like I'd never danced before, free, vindicated, and truly alive. A few tears mingled with my laughter, but that was okay. You can't build a new life without mourning the old one, even if it was built on deception. As I spun on the dance floor, surrounded by loyal friends and family, watching my father via FaceTime ensure James's belongings were removed from our house, I knew one thing for certain. This was the best wedding reception I'd ever attended. Please feel free to comment below if you liked this. Remember to like and subscribers for more.